Nintendo has always been considered to be the family-friendly gaming giant, but that hasn't stopped developers from exploring dark and grim themes and locales from time to time in Nintendo games. Several of Nintendo's largest franchises have some of the most terrifying and chilling levels in video game history. So today we're discussing some of the spookiest and unsettling parts that their games have to offer with our list of the top 10 creepiest levels in Nintendo games. And at number 10, Creepy Castle from Donkey Kong 64. Donkey Kong isn't a name that's synonymous with horror by any means. If anything, Donkey Kong has gone on some pretty wacky and entertaining adventures over the years. But those of you who have played Donkey Kong 64, especially gamers who grew up with it, are no stranger to the jarringly creepy imagery the game contains. While most of it is sprinkled in sparingly or has to do with the game's big baddie, King K. Rool, one level in particular is stacked with an unsettling aesthetic, Creepy Castle. I mean, its name is a dead giveaway. So what makes Creepy Castle so creepy? For starters, it's set in a dark dungeon, filled with outright terrifying enemies. If that didn't spook you, the sound effects and the theme music is enough to make anyone feel uneasy. Toss a thunderstorm in the mix that you can hear periodically throughout the level, and you've got yourself the makings of something pretty darn scary. Up next, number 9, the Strange House from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Strange House in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 is part of the game that isn't necessary to complete in order to finish the main narrative. Rather, it's a side subplot of fairly creepy proportions, a haunted mansion located in the eastern part of Unova, accessed through Reverse Mountain. According to the map, it's described as a house known for a sad incident that is said to keep people away. Once you maneuver through its maze and solve the puzzle, you'll encounter the ghost of a young girl, the one who has intentionally arranged all the furniture that way, and that you've ran into a few times while solving the puzzle. From this encounter, you get the Lunar Wing. That's prompted many a theory from fans about what has happened, and many think it's implied that a Pokemon killed the young girl, specifically the girl who appeared in the first Black and White games on the Marvelous Bridge. And at number 8, Luigi's Haunted Mansion Area 4. When you think of scary Nintendo games, Luigi's Mansion is usually one of the first titles that comes to mind. For starters, Luigi's Mansion deviates a bit from the kinds of genres that Mario's franchise has been accustomed to pumping out. Secondly, your whole goal is to save Mario, and you've got a whole lot of ghosts and creepy dark places that you need to explore in order to achieve that goal. While the game has a whole lot of spooky to offer, the Area 4 level, specifically the rooftop, provides some of the most startling scares leading up to the end of the game. As you work your way through the area, eventually you climb up on top of the mansion, and you're faced with Bowser. But as the boss battle progresses, you realize that he's a possessed version of the classic villain, and his head twists back, releasing a boo when you strike him, eventually decapitating him. Up next, number 7, Perfect Dark, the Carrington Institute. There's many ways a game can stir up unsettling feelings in a player, and one of the most effective tactics comes in the form of shock value. One level in the 2000 game Perfect Dark, developed by Rare, does that exactly. In the world of Perfect Dark, the Carrington Institute is a private research company filled with a bunch of lethal toys that you can eventually get your hands on. For most of its appearance in the game, it's kind of like a hub, a safe area where you can stock up and do other challenges. And in the game, you play as protagonist Joanna Dark, who works for the Institute. Now later in the game, the Institute loses its safe haven status when aliens infiltrate it, a very unexpected event that results in you having to kill them, all while witnessing the aliens murder your colleagues. And at number 6, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, the Stone Tower Temple. Majora's Mask is perhaps the most daunting Legend of Zelda game, especially when it comes to tone. If you're a fan of our channel or have seen any of the other videos that we've done on the Zelda franchise, you've likely heard us discuss the fan theories concerning Majora's Mask, and the bleak suggestion that the game is a metaphor for the stages of grief, and its narrative is actually based on the idea that Link is dead, with him navigating his way to the afterlife by traveling through those stages personified. So all in all, it's a game that's got some pretty grim moments, but one level in particular takes the cake, the Stone Tower Temple. It's an eerie temple that at times feels surreal to navigate, and comes chock full of creepy enemies like the Igor and Poe. The boss at the end though is what makes Stone Tower really creepy, especially for those who have a disdain for insects. It's the giant masked insect Twin Mold. Yeah, hard pass on hanging out with that thing any longer than necessary. And at number 5, Big Boo's Haunt from Super Mario 64. Big Boo's Haunt is a prime example of a scary level in a non-horror game. While it may not seem all that bad if you picked up the game and played through it today, for those of you who grew up with N64s, Big Boo's Haunt was the stuff of nightmares. Not just because the level is loaded with boos, which are in general rather nerve-wracking. Oh no, it's because of this big ol' thing. Seems like a regular piano and then, it's gonna bite your head off. Definitely the best use of a jump scare in a Mario game to date. And at number 4, Bottom of the Well, Ocarina of Time. Often, the scariest dungeon in Ocarina of Time is considered to be the Shadow Temple, and yes, while that one does score some major spooky points, we've decided to talk about another terrifying level that appears in the same Zelda game, the Bottom of the Well. This is because the Bottom of the Well feels more sinister and deceptive right from the get-go, despite being a smaller sized dungeon. You access it by dropping down into a dark well, then crawling through a tiny hole in its wall that's just as dark. The welcoming party isn't overly pleasant either. Once you're inside, it's a claustrophobic nightmare. It's incredibly narrow, it's haunted by some pretty terrifying enemies, enemies, there's invisible holes scattered across its floors, and worst of all, the boss of the level is one of the most mortifying of the series, Dead Hand, with its infinite hands that will grab hold of you. And at number 3, Lavender Town, Pokemon Red and Blue, and Yellow. Lavender Town is an entire community that revolves around a massive graveyard tower. How is that not eerie as f***? Aside from being bombarded by ghost-type Pokemon, the experience of working your way through Pokemon Tower is a grim one. There's gravestones of dead Pokemon everywhere, pretty much everyone you meet is in mourning, and the overall vibe is a chilling one. And the score ain't helping the slightest bit. There's even a whole urban legend about the Lavender Town music that's circulated online. It was rumored that the initial release of Pokemon Red and Blue had a higher pitched score for Lavender Town that caused children who played the game to inflict harm on themselves after getting through that level, often resulting in suicide. Later versions of the game were released with an adjusted version of the score, but it's yet to be proven if the original score is what caused these children to harm themselves. And at number 2, Silent Realms from The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. Located in the spirit world, the Silent Realm of Zelda's Skyward Sword operates on a pretty nerve-wracking premise. Link finds himself needing to collect 15 tears of the goddesses, all while avoiding the guardians who can shatter his soul with one hit, ultimately causing you to fail. You're also on the clock, which makes it that much more intense. Basked in an ethereal glow, if you run out of time in between collecting tears and the guardians are awoken, it's absolutely dreadful fleeing from them while trying to complete the task. And finally, in at number 1, Sector 6 from Metroid Fusion. Metroid Fusion was a game released in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance, and it's by far the scariest of the franchise. The whole premise consists of you as Samus Aran being sent to investigate the Biologic Space Laboratory's space station, which has been overrun by organisms known as X-parasites. But what Samus discovers is that there is a parasite mimicking her, known as SAX. Every single one of their encounters is utterly chilling. The power dynamics between you and SAX creates an immense amount of tension that'll have you holding your breath every single time the parasite appears, and Sector 6 in particular is designed to emphasize that tension to the max. And the Dark Caverns don't help matters much either. Alright, there we have it friends, have you played all the games on our list? Which of these levels left you the most spooked? And what other games had levels that freaked you out? We want to hear all about it in those comments below. But before you go, if you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to hang out with us some more, and be sure to take a peek at the playlist that we have up on your screen right now for more lists, including everything Nintendo. In the meantime, thanks for watching everybody, I'll catch you all in the next video.